Hey everybody, welcome back to the live stream, all 0 of you so far. This is what we got done last time. We animated when I was sick, so I didn't get to stick around for that long. Hey Atticus, wow, that was like immediate. But anyway, what we got done last time when I was sick, didn't stick around much longer. I'm still sick, I still have mono, but I slept pretty well last night. So we did this cool animation where the boss sweeps the lasers across the stage. Person has to duck under them. And then we did some cannon recoil animations for each shoulder. So we've got recoil left, which is really simple, and recoil right, which we might have to tweak these later, but we're going to take everything into the engine after we do one more animation. So the next animation we're going to do is the robot sort of like raising his hands to summon laser drones that shoot lasers at you. And in the engine, by the way, this is what everything's looking like. And if we hit play, you can see the player's platform comes down. I sped it up for the purpose of the stream. Robot comes up, smashes the railings. Goes into idle. The idle I think I'm going to shorten, but we'll test around with it. And then he lifts up and punches, which that's actually going to be changed. The punch is going to come later. The punch feels slow, but when you're right here and he's punching you, it's pretty fast. So let's hop into Blender and get to work on this raising of the hands. So we'll start out with our idle, the end of the idle. So we'll just hit the plus button here to make a new idle. We'll call it RB_hands raise. So we have all of our frames. We can delete all these frames. Move this all the way back to the start. I don't know if there's a way to snap keyframes in Blender, that would be nice. So, let's see, this is the starting pose. Let's go ahead and do the ending pose, because this one should be pretty simple. We'll come forward about 40 frames. And let's say the hands are rotated about like this. Like he's gonna lift his hands up. The shoulders are gonna have to come down. And we probably want those to come in some, so we'll try to rotate this in some. The rig can be finicky, but we'll just mess with it till we get something we like. Oh, nice. On the video. Sorry, I didn't really specify. Rotate this hand, bring it up. We're gonna have to do the same things because that looks janky as hell. We will rotate the shoulder down and rotate this in as much as we can. And we don't want this to be mirrored. Mirrored animation is the death of good animation. So maybe we'll curl the fingers in some. We can bring this shoulder back up a little bit. Bring the hand in a bit more. And then we can bring this hand in. I think we need to rotate them out a little bit, and then we'll work on the thumb positioning. So we'll go ahead and curl the thumbs a little bit. And we'll move this too. We can hit Shift F to look around here, sort of from behind the player's perspective. So from the actual player's perspective, he's much bigger, but... So the robot will raise his hands, and then laser drones will fly up. Which the laser drones look like... God, I have like a billion different things. Oh, nope, those are old. Sometimes it's hard to find things just because my organization has changed so much throughout this project. So if we go to models, maybe. Yeah, so the laser cannons look like this. And they sort of open up like that. So we can drag through that. Looks something like that. They'll fly up, they shoot lasers at you. So that'll be fun. But he's gonna sort of summon them. I've used the laser drones. This will be the third map that I use them on, but second game mode. We'll curl the fingers in a little bit more, and we'll add some variation to the fingers. Maybe the pinkies are curled in more. Something like that. We can look around. Everything seems alright. Maybe he'll lean back a little bit too. So for that, since these are IK, we don't want to rotate them individually, we want to rotate around the torso. And to do that, we can say active element under the rotation point and rotate back a bit. Oh, that looks cool. Can move this one down, maybe rotate the hands up a little bit. We don't want to have any mesh collision or anything, but should we already have a little bit on the elbows here, but I think that's fine. The player's never gonna notice or see that. So then we can insert a keyframe, see what we're looking like. Ah, that looks terrible. So now we need to do some in-betweens. These are Euler XYZ, so Y should be the second axis they rotate around. Let's take a look at the curves and see what's happening that's breaking that. Okay, so... right around... yeah, let's just do a middle pose. Because we also want to have these come up in an arc a little bit. But we don't want them to collide with the platform, so we need to be careful about that. Like this one is already going to collide with the platform. And then we can rotate the fingers back a little bit, so we're going to get some overlapping action there. We can probably do the same thing with the thumbs. I didn't really pay attention to this thumb on the last pose, which is no bueno. And then we'll grab this little control right here, rotate the thumb out. We'll insert a keyframe, see what that looks like. Cool. Then we need a frame after that final pose, I feel. Some keep alive. Also, this is really fast. And we probably don't want the shoulders to come up that much on the mid pose. So we'll go back here, and we will rotate the shoulders down some. Maybe not quite that much, because we can always rotate the shoulder pads now that we have that nifty control. How long have I been working on this? A couple weeks. I mean, it's the final boss in the game. It needs to be really good. Most assets that I do will take, like, I'll knock them out in a day or two. But this is a character. Characters are tough. Also, my stream health is bad. Hopefully that fixes itself. We'll come to 60 and we'll rotate the hands up a little bit more. We'll move this maybe up a tiny bit more just for some keep alive. So he'll raise his hands. Oh, and we don't want the lasers showing. That's for the other animation. I don't know why my stream health is so low. I have gigabit Ethernet, and I just tested my speed test connection. It's at like 700 something megabits per second for upload. Hopefully that fixes itself here in a bit. I'll be going for a while. Alright, and then on this, we want to smooth out. Like, you can see how the graph is sort of kinking a little bit. So we want to smooth that out because we want the leaning back animation to be nice and continuous. Maybe we can curl the fingers in just a tiny bit more on the keep alive frame. And maybe add a little bit more variation to the fingers on the keep alive. So you don't want them all to rotate at identical times. Alright, and now we can play with timing. Normally, if you're doing professional animation, you'd start out in blocked. You'd just focus on poses. None of the... You wouldn't have it set to Bezier mode. But it's fine to work in Bezier too, though. So let's make this take 30 frames now instead of 20. And see what that looks like. And then we can also extend this one about 5 frames. It still seems pretty fast to me for such a big monster. Alright, and then we don't want both of the hands to come up at exactly the same time, so we're gonna add some offset there. So right here, maybe this hand is further down. Which, the easiest way to do that would just be take the frames and drag them at an offset, which is what I would do if I was working on an animation in After Effects or something. But I like to, when I'm first working, I like to keep everything on designated keyframes just because it makes my life a lot easier for retiming actions and stuff. I can just come up here, select the top one, and that selects everything. Alright, so now for this frame, we also want to bring the hands forward some. Because right now, what's happening is they start here in the mid frame. They're here, and this one's pretty much in the same spot, but then it goes pretty much straight. And if you have IK, it goes in a straight line, and you need arcs. Arcs are key for good animation. So we can do that in the graph editor, or we can do it here, but oh, we can also smooth this out some. Generally, if your graph looks kinked, the animation's not going to look as good as it can. Alright, so for the mid frame, we want to focus on location keyframes. And we want, I guess, X. Let's focus on this one since its mid-frame is more realistic. So now it's more of an arc, or at least a little bit. Although we're gonna have to fix that, and to do that we'll just bring his hands out some. And we will scale this up to have it ease in nicer. And then maybe we'll bring this, because right now it goes there and then it stays flat for this axis, so we'll smooth it out some. Same here, we'll smooth it out a little bit. And let's look over here so we can actually see the whole thing. So then maybe up here, we want to rotate this in a little bit. Come down here to our rotations. And we'll grab the Y. And we'll smooth this out a lot. Maybe even more. Maybe try to match it. Alright, so now we gotta work on this arm. Which we really want the arc to be happening here, so we can do that pretty easily. We'll come up to our location keyframes. We'll rotate this up so the peak happens around here rather than down here. And we can scale this handle. And now this finger is also going to come straight through the platform. So we'll do the same thing we did on the last one. We could even just rotate this hand out some. But let's go ahead and move this out some. And then for the final frame, we'll rotate this in. We'll turn on our rotation keyframes as well. And you'll see that that's going to be like a pretty fast animation. I'll have fun playing PUBG. So we'll bring this down to smooth it out. So now if we come up here, we play it. That looks fucking terrible. Pardon my language. There's obviously a hiccup here, so I think it's right here. So we'll grab these, we'll do one of these, which, period on your numpad, you can definitely see where that issue is coming in. So we'll smooth this out for sure. Scale that in, scale that in. Maybe bring this up even a little bit more and rotate it some more. And we can scale this one down. And I think the camera is zeroed on the x-axis. Let's bring this hand in a little bit more. So we'll come to our X location. Oh, no, we want Y location, my bad. We'll grab these keyframes and we'll move them down to bring this hand in some. There you get a nicer looking curve. Give the drones, the laser drones, maybe a second or two to start popping up before he goes back down to his idle pose. So we'll do that right now. Oh, and let's grab this. And we'll do some keep alive by just dragging this rotation down some. And maybe scaling this handle in a little bit. This can come down for sure. If anybody's in the chat, anybody has any questions about anything, feel free to ask. Let's grab you, see what's going on here. Because right now it's kind of awkward how those raise up then fall down. Which is the IK is doing. Maybe we can add like an in-between or something to keep it down. That's a little bit messy though. So we'll come in here, rotate it down some. Still looks pretty bad. Also, for the final frame, we can definitely rotate this up some. Cool. Okay, and where we added the in-betweens for the shoulders, we'll go ahead and key everything. Which looks like that's about here. Just because, again, I like to have everything on clean poses when I'm starting out. We'll mess it up later if we decide to polish this after we put logic in. Right now, the goal is just to get the animations good enough to shove into the engine. We can polish them later if they look bad. I think we can rotate the hands in even more. A lot of people like to use auto key. I do not, just because it's a pain in the ass. It can really screw you up as much as it can help you. So now we want to focus on the Y rotations. Actually, yeah, definitely want to focus on the Y rotations. Smooth that out some. Not really sure what's going on the graph here. So we'll grab this and we'll try to smooth it out, I think. Grab the handles, we can manipulate them. It's just their typical Bezier curve that you'd see in Photoshop or something. Okay, that looks much better. So we'll grab this hand and we'll do the same thing for the Y rotations. Oh wow, that's a disaster. So we'll grab this handle, scale it down some to smooth it out. This handle, smooth it out some. And then this rotates too much at the end. So we'll bring this down to match. And then maybe we'll move this around a little bit. And that'll give us a nice Y rotation curve, hopefully. This might even still be too much. Alright, so let's look at the other rotations and see what's causing the weird movement. Could be the Z again. The Z has been an issue for us. That is an ugly looking curve. We're going to smooth this out. And if anybody's unfamiliar with how animation curves work, essentially each curve, they're color-coded, represents one axis of one attribute. So this only represents the Z rotation. So if we rotate this, you'll see the hand rotating only in that one axis. Which Z I have set up to be the last in the order of rotations, so it can be the weirdest. Because it's the one I use the least frequently. So he brings the robots up. We give it, I don't know, let's give it like 2 seconds. So 80 plus 48 is gonna be 128. I think. I'm pretty sure. Nope. 80 plus 48. Because I'm working at 24 frames per second. Some people prefer to work at 30 for games. I always just work at 24 for everything because it's film standard, and the game will interpolate the frames of the baked animation. So, we'll come here, we'll insert a keyframe, we'll do some keep alive in a bit, and then we'll come forward about 40 frames. And we'll set him to the beginning of the idle pose. And to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and save, by the way. I haven't saved in a while. We'll hop over to the idle. We'll grab that first set of keyframes. And then we'll hop right back into the hands raise. And we'll paste. And that is some ugly motion. So we're gonna have to do some in-betweens, and we're gonna have to slow that down a lot. Maybe even another 10 or so. And then let's shove in an in-between, around 150. We can rotate the hands up so it'll be like some drag motion. And then we can curl the fingers in more like they're being dragged by air resistance. Even though he's a gigantic robot, it'll just look nice. I hope. We'll rotate on the Z, the Y, the X. Select all the fingers again. Bring the fingers in, and add some drag to all of them. I rotated the wrong way. Nope, okay. From that view, it's hard to rotate it the way I want. So, there we go. And still, we need to keep in mind arcs. So for the in-between, we're going to bring the hands forward some. And then probably out so they don't hit the platform. Or hit it minimally, where the player won't notice. Insert a key, see how that looks. Looks fucking terrible. So he raises his hands up, he waits for 2 seconds, and he drops them. Let's go to the in-between. Notice the shoulders are way too high, so we'll go ahead and fix that monstrosity. So nobody raises their shoulders when they're dropping their arms. Looks bad. We're gonna bring these in some. This platform is just in the way. We can always have the fingers collide with the platform or whatever. We want to hide the ugly hand rotation from the players, but we can rotate these in. Something about those rotations is awful, so we're going to take a look at that in the graph editor, see what's going on there. Yeah. So we want to smooth out the Z without making these look terrible. We might just need more frames for the end part. The Y. We probably don't want that to dip like that. You might just need to add another in between here. So we'll grab all these, come to the middle point, add another in between. Oh, that's a pretty picture. Smooth some of this out that we notice. A lot of it's hidden in obscurity, so we don't need all these. Can rotate these up some, I think. Oh dear God, that's ugly. As long as it's hidden from the player, that's all we care about. So let's look at this arm. Raises up. Hey Jimmy, how's it going? Yeah, animation is tough. I'm not much of an animator. I just do what I can. Okay, so now right here, we need to make sure nothing's colliding. So we'll grab our locations for this hand. If we have to do uncollisions later, that's gonna cause some issues. And we can bring this up, smooth it out some. And then we might be able to get away with just animating the fingers here. And I think, God, there's something about the wire rotations that's just off. Like, we want that to be a smoother transition. For the drop entirely. Yeah, that looks way better. And then the Z rotations will bring these down some. Alright, so he's still colliding with the platform, but now it's a matter of just rotating the fingers in when they collide. So we'll get to that in a second. First, let's go ahead and fix this guy. We'll look at this hand now from the player perspective. Maybe move back just a little bit. So then we'll grab the X location and we'll fix the platform collision. We'll just bring this in a little bit. Enough to where we can rotate just the fingers out of the way. Grab this, center on it. Bring this up, bring this up. Let's think about this for a second. So we don't want these to fall down not in an arc, because that's just ugly. But we can't have it colliding with the platform either, and we can't have them going outwards because nobody thinks that far ahead on their actions, even a super smart evil robot. While I think about it, I'm just going to come in and tweak some curves to make them a little bit nicer. We'll put the camera back to X0 and rotation 0. Lifts the hands up, pauses, drops them. There's some weird motion on those rotations. So we're going to take these handles, smooth it out a little bit. I'm curious, honestly, what would happen if we just brought these up and smoothed out the entire curve. We can always undo it later. Lifts the hands up. Right here. I'm not looking how that's looking. grab just these and focus on them. Maybe... something like that. So the player's not really going to see the hands when they rotate fast towards the end. And we'll do the same for the other hand. I'm not happy with the Z rotations at all. So we will bring these down. It's flipped for this hand. Remember, we're lower when we're looking, so maybe we'll see it a little bit. And we can always bring out this keyframe further when we're polishing. Alright, so now we gotta fix the finger collisions. Which happen, unfortunately, on an in-between. So right around here, maybe we'll just come to the next keyframe. And we'll rotate them in, because they're out of view at this point. Yeah, okay, that fixes that hand. And now we gotta fix the other hand. So we'll rotate these in. And hopefully that'll... Not quite. I'll just bring these down a little bit more. We're gonna have to move this hand back some more. So we'll bring up our locations. Our scale keyframes we don't even need. Don't know why if I even have those. But we'll bring in our X location curve. Until they're not colliding anymore. And nobody's going to see the fingers when they are below the platform. So we will see what it all looks like so far. Raises his hands up. Not liking the shoulder motion still. God, hating that. There's something weird going on there. I think it's where this is crossing. Let's see if that even remotely fixes it. It does, but we can't do that because we need to match our idle pose. This is the problem with Euler or Euler animations. When you have this much stuff in the scene, Control Z takes a little while. I wish I could manipulate this without screwing up the idle pose, but I think what we're gonna do is just go into the the dope sheet and give this end part like maybe 5 more frames. And maybe this part 5 more. Maybe not even 5. Right there. Has like a weird sort of motion. Alright, so I'm not noticing anything steep in the rotations, so we're gonna look at the locations for any immediate changes. First of all, this graph is ugly. It's got to be a rotation, because the locations look fine. There's something weird going on here. Can't be the Y. It has to be the Z. Because it's not going to be the X either. Unless there's something weird here. Or with the shoulder. Shoulder, it might be the shoulder. Blech. I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining things and it's not that bad. Hey, Atticus, welcome back. Alright, so now let's offset these things a little bit. because right now they're falling at the exact same speed. So let's have this one fall first. Means we'll drag this one out a little bit on the dope sheet. And then I think we can have him lean back into his regular pose a little bit later. So we'll grab the torso control. You can even just slow it down. And then we need to do some keep alive here. And for that, we'll just go to our graph editor and rotate some of these things a little bit. So for one, that'll be this guy. Ugly graph. Rotate this up more to smooth it out some. So it's subtle, but you can see there's more motion. There's some motion there. We can even make it a little bit more pronounced. So now his locations, I think we can do a little bit with. Just a tiny bit. Also, if I notice any areas of the graph that I need to smooth out, I'll go ahead and handle that as well. Try to smooth out this corner a little bit. And then we'll come in here, rotate this up just a tiny bit, enough for keep alive. Rotate this up just a tiny bit, and move it up a tiny bit. Same on the other axes, if there is anywhere where we could have motion. Oh, shoot. That's pretty ugly. Oh, maybe. We can scale this handle in a little bit, and we can rotate this guy down some. Alright, so then keep alive on this hand. Let's focus on the Z first. bring you down just a teensy bit, and then rotate you a little bit. Again, just enough to where it's noticeable that he's not completely still. Like a robot. Oh wait, he is a robot. Haha, okay, I'll shut up. Anyway, nice curved top is better than flat top, essentially. And this graph, I think we can ease in a tiny bit more into the fall. Same with the other hand. So we'll come to the Z location of this guy. Oh, come on. And what we want to do is rotate this up more, scale this out some, and then compensate down here. And then we can do the same for the other location axes. Those already look like they're eased in pretty well, so we do the same for the rotations. I think I know what's looking weird. It's the relationship of the hand to this. I don't know why when I select either of these, they both show up for the forearms on the graph. Because they're not locked. Anyway, we'll turn on these rotations, turn off the other forearm. Smooth it out some. And let's figure out what let's rotate this on the Z a little bit. Cool. I think the animations are good enough to start building an animation blueprint in Unreal. Not good enough to be final. We'll come back and polish it a later time. Maybe it's a day, maybe another day, who knows? Haven't decided yet. Let's come out to our graph, or dope sheet, and just put a keyframe on the final keyframe for everything. Save our work. select the mesh, select the skeleton, file, export, FBX. So exporting animation is a little bit different. Also, we want animations 01, because I did a little bit of changes to some of the current ones in Unreal, and we're going to want to update those as well. And importing animation into Unreal is a little bit weird. Come to our boss robot folder. Anyway, we haven't finished exporting. So we want the armature, the mesh, selected objects only, Z up. Make sure baked animation is checked so that it doesn't worry about IK or anything. Don't want to apply modifiers. We want to do face for the smoothing. And we hit export. Not sure why it's taking so long. Especially since I did selected objects only. We'll just give it a second. I'll go over to my other screen and check my messages and stuff. It is still exporting. I'll just fly around here while I wait for it. Did it freeze? Is it gonna crash? I think it's frozen. I have to restart Blender. I'll give it a few more minutes here. Let it think. Oh, it's a win. Okay, cool. So now here, I have an animations folder and an animations import folder. This is the best way I've figured out how to do it. It might not be the best way to do it, period. I don't want people seeing my folder structures and they can steal all my stuff. Alright, so we've got animations 01. We'll drag it in. It'll come up with the dialogue. We don't want to import the mesh. We just want the animations. Give it a second to think. Oh, we have to pick a skeleton for it. That is going to be... I don't remember what skeleton is. Boss robot climb skeleton, import all. And it's importing all the animations. We're gonna get some errors just because that's how things go, but they won't affect anything. Imported bone transform different from the original. Okay, shut it. Alright, we don't need any of the ones we already have because we can rotate those. Alright, we don't need punch right bad. We can delete that. Don't need idle. Don't need whatever the hell this is. What is this? Oh! It tried to import the actions from my laser eyes and apply it to the robot. That's interesting. That's like abstract art right there. Don't need it. We don't need this. We don't need the climb. We don't need the punch left. We do need the punch right. Recoil right. Recoil left. Hands raise. Then we can take all these, shove them into our animations folder. We put underscore anim after all the other ones, so we'll go ahead and do that for the new ones as well. Stay consistent. Won't actually affect anything as we work on stuff, it's just good to have naming conventions for organization. Although my organization is pretty much out the window. Alright, so then our climb is fine. Our punch left, we need to update because I did some changes. So we can go to re-import asset. And that'll make the head match properly. Cool. This is 166 frames, so we need to set the range for these guys as well. So we want to do set range, max 166, and then re-import. Cool. The recoils are definitely going to be too long at the exported time. Let's see what those look like. These ones are about 25 frames long. So come down here to import settings, do a set range and 25 frames, and re-import. So now it's like he's doing a dance move. Or he has like something severely wrong with him. And we can work on these animations later. Right now I just want to get some logic in place. And then recoil right is also 25 frames, so we'll do that. You'll notice we did a little bit of arm animation on the recoil right, which is gonna look a little bit better, I think. And then let's take a look at what the other animations are in terms of time. The eye lasers are... Just let me jump frames. 205. So we'll grab our eye lasers. We'll do set range 205. Re-import. Cool. We'll grab our hands raise. That one is 185. Come down here, set range 185. Re-import. And that's gonna be good. Okay, so now we can work on our animation blueprint a little bit. Which right now looks like this. Well, no. It looks like this. We have a state machine, which we haven't named. We'll call this boss robot underscores SM for state machine. Get rid of that. And our state machine does climb. Which if we open the climb, you'll see we have some animation notifications that cause events to trigger. So we have Destroy Rail 1. For ease of visuals, let's grab these and put them up here. We have Destroy Rail 1, Destroy Rail 2. That's so when his hand hits, it'll destroy the rail at the right time. And then at the very end, we have a switch from climb to idle, which allows us to switch animations to the idle animation. So after idle, we want to randomly select what he does next between, I guess, the lasers and the cannons. We have to figure out how to string the cannon animations together as well. That's going to be a tough one. Because right now this is linear. Our state machine's not going to look linear at all when we're done. So I also don't have a ton of experience working in animation blueprints, so this is all experimental for me. So let's create a new state. What are conduits? Comment boxes. What's a conduit? I'm gonna Google that. What is a conduit and why do you need it? Oh, you can, let's just create one. So an example case for a conduit could be a situation where you have multiple animations that could play when a character is killed. You could start with a simple transition rule. It says when the health of that character is less than or equals 0, go to death state. However, instead of a state, the transition went into a conduit. You could perform a series of checks to see how the player was killed, shot, stabbed, exploded, hit by a car, anvil, etc., and branch from there into various independent death states. But you can already do that. I guess a conduit isn't an animation. Oh, okay, so a conduit's not an animation, it's just a branch. So we don't need that. It's a branch to other animation states. Well, a regular state has an animation tied to it. I got it. That's pretty cool. So let's, from idle we can go to multiple areas. So let's do eye lasers. Punches we'll put down here for now. We need R punch for right punch. We need eye lasers, and we need hands raise, and we need bomb fire. Oh no, I keep typing the name of the new state into the search field. Alright, so we've got a few different states to work with now. Let's start with the easy ones. So we'll do eye lasers. That's literally just an animation. It's giving us warnings because these states can't be transitioned into yet because they are eternally false for the transition booleans. So we'll deal with that in a little bit. Right now, let's just build these states. So we'll drag this out into its own window. We'll go to animations and we'll do eye lasers. Plug that in right here. Compile, save. We're not going to see it over here because, yeah. Ah. So we have our eye lasers in place. Now we need our hands raised. And let's create some variables for those. Idle to hands raise. Idle to eye lasers. Idle to bomb raise. So, eye lasers. We'll grab our eye lasers boolean. And now that is the condition for whether or not it can transition to that animation. Hands raise. Which I'm lazy, I don't have my hand on my keyboard. To avoid that little pop-up, you can hold Control to bring it out or Alt to set it. And then bomb fire. So if I hold Control, we don't get the little pop-up. If we don't hold Control, we do get a little pop-up. If we hold Alt, we set it instead. We can compile, save. I don't know why it's still yelling at me, probably because right punch. So we need an idle to R punch. Great, now it's a green check mark. None of these are ever gonna fire. Yeah, they are. The punch is gonna fire. But we can grab like our eye lasers and turn it on, and now he'll jump up and do ah. But then he'll never go back to idle, because we haven't done those transitions yet. We also need to turn looping off for each of these. So eye lasers, that's not gonna loop. And then hands raise, that's not gonna loop. And what as a pin does is if I click it, you'll notice that that is now a boolean there that we can use variables for. So if we come back here, we can go to bomb fire. Nope, we haven't done that one yet. Right punch, we also haven't done yet. Compile, and we don't want that to loop. I compile save way too often. So, what's next? Bonfire, I guess. We need to figure out how to transition between multiple recoils. I have an idea. We'll do a conduit that we just learned about. So this state will be bonfire L, and then we'll add bonfire R. We'll come to our conduit, bonfire L, bonfire R. We'll select this line right here and delete it. Then we'll have transitions between these two animations. This is going to be the transition to bonfire. Bonfire is with an F, not an R. So then it will randomly we'll have it randomly select a left or right. So con to bomb left, con to bomb right. And then either of these need to be able to go back to idle. All these actually need to be able to go back to idle. So I think for back to idle, we'll be able to go just using one variable. So we'll do action to idle. We'll drag back, drag back, drag back, drag back. Trying to keep this as clean as possible, but I realize it looks extremely confusing. Just think about it in terms of logic, what needs to go where. And we have to be able to go to idle at any of these and then back to idle, which is why I have arrows pointing both directions. So we'll use one boolean for now and then set it to false when we hit back to idle. Nope, I missed. Alright, so we want this one actually. Because we're gonna do a random amount of bomb shots within a range. Hey Mason, how's it going? I'm working on the animation of the boss robot. Almost done. Okay. Oh, we're still missing something. So, bonfire right to bonfire left, and then bonfire left to bonfire right. So right to left, and then left to right. So these are all now conditions we have to change. Bonfire con will never be taken. Did we not set you? Idle to bonfire. Oh, I guess we'll just do random integer in range 0, 1. Switch on int or random bool. Node result uses potentially thread unsafe call. We'll just say true. Alright, so let's see what happens if we set idle to BF. I'll wait for him to hit idle. Idle to BF isn't triggering anything. Also, let's go ahead and come to this animation. Like I said, this is pretty much just me stumbling through this at this point. So we want to go to our event graph and attack transition. We want to break that. So if we're in idle, we go to eye lasers. That works. Then we go back to idle. Then we do bonfire. Which isn't doing anything. Hands raise. Works. Go back to idle. Oh, I haven't connected those animations yet. So we need recoil left, connected. And then we need recoil right connected. And then we can, once we're in idle, then we can say idle to bomb fire, bam, recoils that. And that's firing endlessly. So we need to add some anim notifies to the bomb firing. And transition speeds. Like, we don't want these to fade in. There's a way to change that. But we'll come into bombfire R. And we'll say bam, recoil. Maybe right around frame 10. We'll add notify. New notify, and we'll say recoil swap. That way we can use the same notify on both and be efficient. So we can come to recoil left and right around 10. We can add recoil swap. And we can come into our event graph. Recoil swap, and we can add some logic for that. So we can branch. If right to left is true, then we set right to left to be false, and we set left to right to be true. If it's false, then we branch again, and we check to see if left to right is true. Because remember, neither of them could be true at some point. If left to right is true, then we set left to right to be false, and we set right to left to be true. If neither of them are true, then I wonder if I can get what animation. So if neither is true, then we branch, and we ask what animation's playing. We'll say recoil. If it's playing recoil right, then I have no idea if this node is even going to work for us, but we'll find out in a second. Trial and error. If it's playing right, then we set right to left to true. If it's false, then we set left to right to true. So we come up, we go into idle, we set bonfire to true, we set bonfire, looks fucking terrible. We definitely need to make that later in the animations. So we'll drag this out all the way to the end, which I feel is going to be too slow, but we'll try it. Bonfire, let's go left. Cool. I'll come to event graph. We'll go ahead and automatically transition. Let's lower this to 20 frames just to speed it up a little bit. So we'll come to our recoil animations. Recoil left. We'll come to 20. Recoil right, also to 20. We'll save. We'll go to our new ones. Make sure those are being saved. We'll file, export FBX animations 1. Wait for that to export. Last time it took a little while. I'm not sure why it takes so long. But we'll give it a second here. We can work on logic while it's doing that. Okay, so attack transition. We still want the switch because we're going to swap randomly between different kinds of attacks, but we'll do instead idle to BF to true and to then we'll do random switch on int. We'll add 2 pins and we'll do random integer in range 0 to 1. And then we'll choose left or right that way because we don't want it to always be left or always be right. And if we're setting one to true, we want to set the other one to false. So we'll set con to BR to false. And we want to do this before we set this so it doesn't have any glitches and go to the wrong one. And then we'll set con to BL to false and set con to BR to true. So now it can randomly go to either right or left. So he'll come up, he'll do his idle. And then he'll go into firing his cannons. Blender's done exporting, so we can update those animations now. Recoil right is now going to be 20 frames, and we'll re-import that. And recoil left is going to be 20 frames, and we'll re-import that. QC General, was it all trial and error, or did I use video tutorials? I started out with a great tutorial series from Ben Tristram. It's Intro to C++, or Learn How to Program C++ Making Games or something. I'll send a link in the chat here. So that's where I started, and then I followed some blueprint tutorials on the Unreal site, and other than that, after I got the general basics of how to do things down, it was just learning as I go. If I wanted to figure out how to do something, I Googled it, which I feel is the best approach. That's how you learn the most, because there are like a billion ways to do pretty much anything in Unreal, and sometimes a tutorial might not tell you the best way to do it. Recompile, save, see what it looks like. He'll climb up. we'll do is idle. And animation blueprints, I still don't have a great handle on. Then he fires between those. I don't know why it's jerking like that. I think there's still some transitioning going on there. So we'll take a look at that. Transition set to 0. Oh, it's a really good course. I ended up using more Blueprint than I did C++, but in general it's a pretty good intro to Unreal just overall. Oh, I think what's happening is those are looping. So we have to come in here and tell these not to loop. There are also like a billion checkboxes and stuff to remember to hit. So he does his climb animation, now he's in idle. And now he's firing his cannons. Which he is not doing. He's been in Bombfire R forever. Okay, so we can change the logic a little bit. We can go to our event graph, and for this check, we'll check if con to BL is true or con to BR is true. So if BL is true, then we set BL to BR. I realize all this is very confusing how I have it set up. Yeah, C++ is great in Unreal. I just like nodes because that's my background in visual effects. Everything is node based. Alright, so then he goes into this loop, and then we'll do a count for the recoil swap. We will go back to idle. So let's create a couple variables. These will be integers. So this will be bombs fired. We can always rename these later, and we'll do max bombs fired. For now, we'll just hard set max bombs fired to 5, but when we have actual gameplay, we'll randomize a little bit. So max bombs fired will be 5, and bombs fired will be 0. So at the end here, we'll say bombs fired will be so we'll increment bombs fired, which Blueprint and C++ logically are fairly similar. For me, it's just nice having this node graph, which you're going to use animation blueprints whether you're doing C++ or Blueprint for most of your stuff, just because that's how you do animations in Unreal. But the logic here is similar to what you would do. So then, at the very beginning here, we'll do a check, which is pretty much an if statement. We'll see, is bombs fired greater than or equal to max bombs fired? And if it is, if it's not, we'll go do all this stuff. If it is, then we can say action to idle equals true. So now he should fire 5 bombs and then go back to idle. So he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And now he should be back in idle. Oh, but we also need to set idle to bomb fire to false. There are a bunch of booleans we have to set each time, so it doesn't automatically try to transition back to bomb firing. And we want to set con to BL and con to BR to false. First, we already do that there, so he fired his bombs, and he's going to get to the end of the action, and the action to idle is already false. So when we transition to here, we need to change action to idle to false. So now he's in idle. So he's back in idle. At the end of the idle, he'll okay, so then we also need to reset bombs fired to 0. And then I'm going to go ahead and comment all this just so I have a general idea of what's going on. So right here, at beginning, check to see if max bombs have been fired. If enough bombs fired, go back to idle, reset transition bool for idle to bomb fire, and reset bombs fired. So those 2 comments are enough for now to give us an idea of what's going on. Then here, this switch box is going to be pick a random attack from the list. Alright, so then randomly choose whether to fire left or right first. Then set action to idle to false. Then set idle to bomb fire to true. Bomb firing logic. That's close enough. Okay, and then when we go into the bomb firing, we can set the amount of bombs that it fires if we want to. Although we need to remember the first one is free because it's not counting until it swaps. I don't know, let's take a look at how many times he fires. So he goes into idle. And he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Six. Wait, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll change max bombs fired down to 5. Or let's just do, or 4, sorry. So now he should only fire 5. But he fires more the first time and I don't understand why. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, wait, why does he do more the first time? I think we need to start with bombs fired at 1 also. Well, greater than or equal to wouldn't... I mean, our other one would be equal rather than... I don't think we would ever want to do greater than because we don't want the bombs fired to ever exceed the max bombs fired. But we can change max specs to 5 since we start with bombs fired being 1 now. I don't... So... One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I know why. Because we're not doing that. We're not incrementing down here. The first time, it's not going to either of these routes, it's going down to the third route. So we also need to increment on the third route. It comes up, let's count. We've got idle, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. That was it. So then, at the beginning, we're going to want to emit a particle system as well. We'll go ahead and do that just so it looks cool when we're testing. So at the very beginning, add a new notify, and this will be our cannon particle system. Except this will actually be left. Nope. L cannon particle system. And then for right, we'll do our cannon particle system. And then we're going to want to go into our skeleton and add some sockets for the particle systems to appear at. So we'll hop into our boss robot skeletal mesh, and we'll hop into the skeleton tab, and we'll come up to our cannon, which is going to be under so there's the root, the waist, the torso. Oh wow, I have so many things. Cannon L. No, I lost it. Okay, Cannon L. We'll add a socket. And we'll call this Cannon L socket. That sounds pretty good to me. We'll set the scale down to 0.1. Not that it matters, this is just for visual aesthetic of our socket, so it doesn't look huge. And we'll set that like right here. Close enough, it's going to be a pretty big particle explosion. And then we'll do the same thing on Cannon R. We'll add a socket. And we'll call it 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Move it up, move it out, just has to be close, doesn't have to be anything special. We might need to add other sockets later for where the cannonballs actually spawn. Or the bombs, I guess. But this will work fine for the particle systems. Okay, so we have our two sockets. So now notify particle system, and we'll say spawn emitter at location. And we'll do explosion just temporarily. We can always swap out particle systems later, we just want to get the functionality in. And then socket get socket location, and then we want to grab those sockets. Copy L socket, so that's actually going to come up here. But I think this one's going to be our socket. And we'll grab the location, compile. We're going to get some errors because it doesn't know who it belongs to. So we want to get the owner. I think, let's see what our other options are. Get anim instance. Get skeleton. An object reference. Get owner, cast to. Nope. Skeletal mesh socket. Skeletal mesh socket object reference. So we want the socket location, but that's not going to work because we don't have the skeletal mesh. I'm sorry, I'm thinking. This is gonna take a little bit of thought. So we'll try get owner. And then there has to be a get mesh. Get skeletal mesh. Cast to. I am at a loss here. I thought it would know. Well, let's see if this emitter even shows up. Man, I think I broke it. He's not even playing anymore. So close this, reopen it. Alright, so he's climbing at least. And then let's see if particle system appears when he fires. Yep, there's our explosion. We need to get the socket location. I don't know how to do that. Because we know what the skeleton is. But it's not letting me get it. This is tough. I'm just doing a lot of creative Googling right now. Well, let's get the owner. Let's see what all of our get act. So we can get the class, we can get the path name, we can get the object name. Whole bunch of shit we couldn't possibly need. I didn't think that just getting a socket location would be this difficult. I think I've even done it before, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I've done it before. I'm gonna go look at that. So we have... I'm pretty sure it's under descend. Nope, not descend. It'll be under punch up. And then the missile crawler. Get owning component, get socket transform. Well, that was easier. Alright, so now let's grab the skeleton and grab our sockets. Get owning component, get socket location. And let's see what happens. I feel pretty dumb for how unbelievably simple that was. So it goes into idle. Cool, we have particles spawning. Alright, so we don't have bombs firing yet, but we'll work on that later. Let's get the other functionalities working. And let's take these firings down to 15 frames. Which looks fast here, but when they're chained together, I think it'll look a lot less fast. So, I like the recoil right better than I like the recoil left, so we're gonna copy these and Control-Shift-V. And then we'll save. And then we'll select these two things. We'll do a file export to FBX, same thing. Wait for it. Do some logic over here while we're waiting. We'll comment this out, so we'll say, or not comment it out, we'll just comment it. So we'll say left cannon, and we don't need two commas, left and right cannon particle system spawns. Cool, so now and I think I want it to be running HP bombs and eye lasers, and then the raising of the laser drones is going to be a special event. I have to think about this for a second. And I won't be able to playtest VR while I'm streaming just because it's going to lag like crazy. The XSplit's using processor quite a bit, I think. So we have the bomb firing. Move that down a little bit to make room. Next, we'll also grab all this. Move it up here, and then we'll do the eye lasers. And then we'll say random integer in range, which we're going to replace this with a Tetris bag later. Tetris bag mechanic is where it randomly selects from the bag, but when it does, it pulls it out, so it will never do the same thing twice in a row. And then after the bag is empty, or after enough actions have been completed, it resets the bag. So I guess we're gonna need more than just the eye lasers and the bombs. We can always include the drones and the attacks to have 3 options for attacks. Or we can also have we need an eye laser sweep from the right too. Go ahead and grab and do one of those. So eye lasers. This is from left to right. But we're not going to rename it in Blender. Okay, so we're going to want to, if we're going to be flipping him, we want to make sure there are keyframes on all bones for every part. So here we'll say Control-C, Control-Shift-V, Control-C, Control-Shift-V, Control-C, Control-Shift-V, Control-C, you get the point. So now he'll look up here and he'll sweep from the right. Cool. So now we'll re-export this. We'll go ahead and make sure this is saved. Wait for it to export for a second. And then hopefully our nice empty folder in Unreal will let us get the import dialog back for the animations. How's it going? And then eventually we're going to split into phases of the boss battle. There are going to be, I think, 5 phases. You're going to have to punch his fist back at him 5 times to kill him, essentially. At the end of each phase is when you're going to punch the fist back, and it's going to speed up between each phase. So he'll be doing attacks faster, the idle will be shorter. So we should make a few different idles of different lengths so that the transition between idle to attack is consistent. Okay, so that's exported, so let's go ahead and import it back in and delete all the animations we don't need. So the best workflow is to have a Blender file per animation. So you just have an animation file, import it, or export it, import it. The way I'm doing it is not recommended. It's just the way that I have it set up right now. So we'll drag in this. Hopefully it'll bring up the import dialog rather than re-importing. It does. Perfect. We don't want to import the mesh, just the animations, and we want the boss robot skeleton. So import that. And it's importing all of the animations, which again is why I'd recommend having individualized Blender files per animation. That's cool. We only need eye lasers. Right, left. And we'll move that to our animations folder. And then we can delete all these. And we're going to want to make sockets for the eyes. I know he has a head. Head. Okay, cool. Head in, goes back down to roots. We'll add sockets. Uh, 0.1 seems to be a pretty good size. So we'll move this forward. About where that eye is. And about where that eye is. Then we'll go to the left view. And we'll set these forward some. We'll go to perspective. So this is the left eye. And then we'll make some laser actors. Which if we go to local transforms, we'll see that these are oriented across the these are oriented across the Z, so we want to make sure our lasers are going to be oriented across the Z, but we'll take one of these guys, clear the keyframes, clear the rotations. Make sure that these are long enough by turning on the environment. Have to find what layer the environment's on. Yeah, these are definitely long enough. Cool. So we'll grab him. We'll say File, Export, FBX. And we'll call this RB underscore iLaser. Cancel, because right now I know exactly there's something wrong. Yeah. We'll apply the scale as well. And then we'll file, export, FBX, RB, iLaser, mesh, Z up, face, don't apply modifiers, export FBX. I don't know why exporting right now is taking so long. Normally it doesn't. Maybe I need to restart Blender or something. But we can grab the eye lasers, Drag them down here. Why is that coming in as a skeletal mesh? I'm gonna restart Blender. There's something funky going on. I don't know why the GeForce game overlay comes up. It's really annoying. I need to figure out how to turn it off. I thought I did turn it off, but we'll try again. NVIDIA. I did turn off the helper service. I don't know what turns off these stupid numbers. Whatever. File, export, FBX, selected objects, Z up, mesh only, apply modifiers, face. Eye laser. Hop back into Unreal, import the eye lasers again. Sometimes you have to fiddle around with stuff, move between folders a little bit for it to remember to do the import dialog. It's not a skeletal mesh, and that's frustrating me. Well, it works. We already have a laser material. We'll do the laser bullet material. What I just did was turned the tone mapper off because I haven't been using it anywhere in this game, and that's just for consistency. If I was making a new game, I would be using the tone mapper because it gives it a cool filmic look, which looks like that. It just changes the contrast curves. But 0 is for off. So now we need to make a new actor. This will be BR iLaser underscore BP. Underscore BP for blueprint. It's just a naming convention. Drag the iLaser in. Compile. Save. We can bring up the iLaser. We can look at our collisions. There aren't any, so we'll do collision, add box simplified collision, and that'll be fine. So, now we need to spawn one of these whenever he does the eye thing. And the eye lasers last, let's check frames. $185 frames. No, this is the one that's 205. 205 divided by 24 gives us about 8.5 seconds. So we'll just do a delay for now. We're gonna animate these in a second, but we'll just say delay. 8.5 seconds. Then destroy actor. Although 8.5, so we want these to spawn pretty much right here. So 55, so 205 minus 55 is 150, divided by 24 is about 6.25 seconds. We'll give it 6.5 to be safe. This logic right here is purely just for testing purposes. So we'll hop over here. We'll set the default now to we'll break this so it never goes out of idle, and then we'll set idle to eye lasers to true. Then we'll hop over here to our graph, come to our eye laser animation, and we'll go to about frame 55. And we'll add a notify. Spawn eye lasers. Oh, that's cool. You can have a chance of triggering rather than always triggering. That's pretty neat. And then we will go to our event graph. Notify, spawn eye lasers. We want to spawn 2 of these. We might want to do all this in the boss robot actor later, but this will tell us what it looks like for now and help us get the timing right. And make sure we're getting the transforms right. Then we get owning component, get socket transform, we don't want to mess with the scale. So just location and rotation. And then we want to attach to we'll do an on-tick thing. And this socket will be RB underscore RI underscore socket. RB RI socket. Copy this, paste it, do the exact same thing here. Then we'll promote these to variables. And we'll call this R LI laser. And RI laser. Compile, save it. Then alright, so it does spawn them. That's cool. On update animation, we'll do a branch. If is valid checks to see if it exists. So there's no reason to run the logic if neither of these exist. And then we'll do an AND boolean. Both of these will have to exist for the logic to update. Then we'll copy grab both of these, and then we'll set world transform. We will set actor transform. Split. We just want the location and the rotation. And we'll do the same thing here. Set transform. Split the struct then, location, rotation. Compile, save. And we'll see what happens. Goes into idle. Perfect. Then at the end of eye lasers, you want to set the action to idle to true. So we'll just put a notify at the end of the eye lasers animation. Oh, notify name. The stupid little, the numbers that are appearing here are from NVIDIA something or another, and it's really, really, really annoying. It's showing the frame rate, and I don't know how to turn that off, but it does it for every window in Unreal. Oh wait, we already have a notify for... we'll add a new one, just to be safe. No. Save that. Go back to the event graph. Notify action to idle. And we can just set all of the idle to whatever's to false and just make this one mega event. Alright, it's really annoying that you can't grab multiple of these at a time in an animation blueprint. We already have an individual notify for the cannons, so that's fine. But just set everything to false. And then set action to idle to true. And now we can use this notify in multiple places. So now he'll climb up. He'll look up. He'll sweep lasers. The reason I added this was to prevent the jerkiness, because it was trying to go back to idle every time he went into the eye lasers. Alright, so now we have an eye laser transition. We have a bomb cannon transition, which should still work just fine. And I think we actually reduced those speed-wise. So these are now 15 frames, so let's re-import those. Drag that over all the way to the end. Save. And then go back to our test, recompile it. Let's see what happens. $15 might be too fast, but we'll test it. I'll test it when I play test it. And switch to eye lasers, which we can go ahead and randomize this. So now we don't know what he's going to do next. I don't know why it's firing two particle systems at once, but anyway, it's been over 3 hours for this stream. I think that's long enough for anybody to listen to me ramble on and show off Unreal stuff, so I'm going to call it quits on the stream for now. I'm probably going to keep working, but now if I turn off the stream, I'll be able to actually play test this in VR. So, you all have a fantastic evening, and thank you for watching.